Hi everybody, Matt here, Simply Strength. I've just got back from seeing the new Mad Max film, and I thought I would chime in on the whole debate about whether it's a feminist film or not. And I thought I'd wait until I'd seen it. I'm a big fan of the genre, the post-apocalyptic genre, so I love all things like The Road, Fallout, things like Rage, which is very similar to Mad Max actually, Rage on the Xbox 360. All of that post-apocalyptic stuff, dystopian future. So I've seen the first two films and thoroughly enjoyed them. I think that Mel Gibson made it an iconic role. And I was very much looking forward to seeing Tom Hardy play Max. So having just got back from the cinema, I thought I'd analyse the film. So do beware, there are some spoilers. Not many, but I'd advise that you go and watch the film before coming back here, and I'm basically just going to reel off a few of my thoughts on it. So obviously everyone knows that Aaron Clarey did a video on this, or a blog, I beg your pardon, on Return of Kings that got a lot of media attention around the world. And he'd not actually seen the film before putting his article together. Whereas obviously I've seen it, and I did have that in the back of my mind when watching it. But my first thoughts on the film are that it's an action spectacular. It's a lot of really organic action sequences in the desert, very engaging, very exciting sequences throughout the film. It's one big truck chase, essentially. And one thing I was disappointed about is that Max is obviously the centerpiece of the film, and he's not actually in it for half the film. And obviously, Max isn't very talkative anyway, but Tom Hardy must have had about 20 lines of dialogue to learn for the whole piece. So not a lot to say. And he's not as much, in my opinion, I don't think he's as much of a badass as when Mal played him. I mean, I did enjoy Tom's portrayal. And I think it shows a lot of promise moving forward. It's definitely one of the better films I've seen in the last year or two. But I thought that I would get one of these articles up. There's a piece that I've linked to on HitFix. 7 Ways Mad Max Fury Road Sublimely Subverts Movie Sexism by Donna Dickens, I assume, who's a feminist. And I just thought that I would pick apart the different segments of each point and give my opinion on that. So she's basically saying that Fury Road's 2 hours of high-octane action that's also a giant middle finger to every sexist action movie trope that's come before it. Number 1, it's a story about escaping sexual slavery with zero sex in it. So, yes, the women... Furiosa, who's played very well, I might add, by Charlize Theron. She plays a very strong character, very tough, on par with Max. And for a start, I mean, I certainly wouldn't call myself a feminist. I would call myself a humanist. I see everyone, whether man, woman, transsexual, or whatever. I would class everyone as equal. Or I treat everyone the same. And this is obviously accounting for the MGTOW lifestyle that I have adopted. And I've got no problem with a strong portrayal. But I did think that there are, it's not dominant in the film. It wasn't dominant, even though it was in the back of my mind that, there was a big furore about these feminist themes. It didn't take centre stage when I was watching the film. I just went in and thought, look, I'm going to watch an action flick. It's a post-apocalyptic setting, which I enjoy, and that's going to be that. But there were 1 or 2 scenes in there that did, click with me, that it's a prod towards or what's perceived to be the tropes that have always been in film. So, like when they cut off their chastity belts or whatever they are, the metal thongs or whatever, get rid of those and free themselves of Immortan Joe, who's the main villain, who basically owns them. So it's almost like freeing themselves from male ownership or patriarchy, is the overused term. But her next point is the wives being supermodel attractive makes narrative sense. Yeah, so you've got Rosie Huntington-Whiteley in there as one of the pregnant women, and they're all catwalk ready. That's for sure, and she mentions that in this piece. The next point that rankles with me a little bit was number 4 in her article. Fury Road passes the Bechdel Test 100%. 100% times? Yeah, that's her grammar. But anyway, it's a litmus test, she says, and to pass, a movie must have 2 female characters with names who talk to each other about something other than a man. It's not perfect, but it helps illustrate how utterly underrepresented women's voices are in film. Mad Max Fury Road passes on a level heretofore unheard of outside chick flicks. There is a moment late in the film when no less than 12 women, 7 of them named, are talking together. On the one hand, I am mortified this is cause for celebration. On the other hand, it's a decisive victory worthy of a fist pump. Now, there's plenty of films where women talk to each other about something other than a man, for example. Which one comes to mind recently? Just out of the blue, I don't know why, but Alien Resurrection comes to mind. I think Winona Ryder and Sigourney Weaver are talking to each other about something other than men at the time. I think they're talking about how to get off the space station filled with slobbering aliens. That one comes to mind, certainly. Yeah, so I didn't really get that point, to be honest. The movie rejects the macho manliness stereotype of action blockbusters. Who killed the world is the question plaintively asked during Fury Road. The answer is obviously toxic masculinity. The idea that real men, in capitals, act a certain way, are violent and aggressive, and never ever have feminine emotions. Miller doesn't shy away from showing how this mindset is destroying what's left of the world. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing here. Ideas about what would make a man turn into a suicide bomber and how redemption is always a worthy goal. Yeah, I can think of one idea that makes men turn into suicide bombers, and that's thinking about 72 virgins or whatever it is in Islam. Max's lone wolf status just about gets him killed. Yeah, that doesn't really make that much sense to me. Action movies have a tendency to overlook the ramifications of being a lone man against the world. The world outnumbers you and, barring superpowers, it will win. Max behaves admirably in the beginning of Fury Road. He bides his time until the opportune moment, escapes using his wits and his surroundings, and beats the snot out of nameless warboys. But in the end, it doesn't matter. One man can only do so much against the Horde. It's not until Max teams up with Furiosa that he stands a real chance for survival, and Max is 100% okay with this. If someone is a better shot than you, Max doesn't care if they have ovaries. He's not emasculated when he momentarily becomes a living sniper stand. Survival situations mean there's no time to wring your hands over the reproductive organs of your cohorts to get the job done. Yeah, I didn't get this point, to be honest. Max is meant to be a badass. He's meant to not care about what anyone says to him or does. And Furiosa is barking orders at him quite a bit during the film, and I did see a little bit where Aaron was coming from in his assessment. But other than that, for saying that his lone wolf instincts almost get him killed, he almost gets killed about 100 times when he's with Furiosa. Let's not forget that. So her point is it's almost invalid, And then final point, we are not things. The theme running through Fury Road, the wives are not things to put up on a shelf until Immortan Joe wants another heir. The wives' unborn children are not things to be raised and moulded in a cruel society. The war boys are not things to be disposed of in a never-ending struggle for dominance. Max is not a thing to be drained dry so another may live. Well, that's not really a feminist point. That's a point about usury and using other people. But yeah, the problem with this point is that if we're not things, if she's talking about that from a female's perspective, you know, who is it who actually built the rig that they're travelling on? Who built the cars? Who built the engines? Who built the huge water well that pours the water out? Who built that? I'm guessing it was the big guys, the big men, the roided up guys in the weird clothing. So maybe they felt used, that they built a water well for everyone to drink from. Even the faceless millions are given moments of humanity to remind us they are monsters, but they are also men. Whether George Miller set out to write and film the first feminist action blockbuster at this point is moot. He's fundamentally changed the game. The bar hasn't just been reset for future films, it's been forcibly dismantled and reassembled in the middle of a gauntlet of sand and blood. Now it's up to the rest of Hollywood to reach for it. I don't know, man. I see it as just being a damn good action film. And there's strong characters from the male side, and there's also strong characters from the female side. There were one or two themes that came through that were a bit sort of, you know, overt, for want of a better word. But I mean, there's plenty of strong female characters in Hollywood, I think, in terms of, you know, Trinity from The Matrix. You're going to have the Wonder Woman film. You're going to have Supergirl's going to come to CNN, I think, or whatever. I forget the network, but it's a series that's going to come out. There's loads of strong female characters, so I don't think it's something they need to force down your throat, for want of a better expression. But anyway, that's my thoughts on it. I did enjoy the film. Thought it was, you know, a real, a very exciting experience. Worthy of a watch. I enjoyed Tom Hardy for his portrayal, and I do think it's worth seeing. But obviously, if you follow the MGTOW philosophy, do go in with an open mind, as I did, and, you know, take what you can out of it. And if you especially like the post-apocalyptic genre, then you're in for a real treat. It's a great film. Thanks for listening, guys. Sorry I'm not uploading too often. I've got a lot of work on that's demanding a lot of my time, so apologies for that. But as always, thanks for listening to me, and I'll speak to you again in the next video. Thanks.